you get to see things like this. Nothing Phone 3B and Nothing Ear for 3A. I didn't say that right.
It's the Nothing. No, you said Nothing.
Completely.
I love this. It's the Nothing Phone 4B. And
it is completely
3A,
wrong.
But you went
exactly.
You went Phone 3B and
this is going to be a blooper. You'll see things like this, Nothing Phone 3B and no, I did it wrong
again.
You did
it again.
See, bloopers.
I love it.
It's great. Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Jouar, and today is Friday, July 10th, 2026, and I've got the most excellent Nirave Gondhia here with me today. Hi, Nirave. How are you?
Hello, darling. I am delightful, wonderful, and chilling. How are you?
Fantastic. I mean, it is a lovely, slightly overcast day here in Vancouver, and you are having a lovely evening of heat wave. I hope you have AC or something to dodge it.
No, there's no such thing as air conditioning in the United
Are you in a
Kingdom.
basement?
No, I'm in a room above a converted garage. So I'm surrounded by like brick walls, but
so you're
inside of plasterboard. And you'd think it's cool, but there's one window. It's on the other side of the office. It's like a bank of windows. So I've got all this heat coming in during the day because it's like, I don't know, 95 degrees and humid. And then right now there's no air coming, even though it's cold outside, there's no cold air coming in. So this room just gets perpetually hotter and hotter and hotter until I don't go in here for like 48 hours.
Oof. Well, listen, we have a bunch of news to cover because last week I had a retrospective episode where we looked at with Steve Litchfield, a longtime UK mobile tech journalist who's kind of semi-retired now.
Mr. All About Symbian.
It was, yes, correct. And it was not all about Symbian, the podcast, but a lot about Symbian. We did talk a lot about our most important camera phones and smartphones of the last 25 years. And so obviously we did not cover last week's news. So this week, we're getting 2 weeks worth of news.
Before we jump into the news, can I take a very quick guess? I have not listened to last week's podcast at all, but I want to guess 3 phones that I'm categorically willing to bet that Mr. Litchfield, who I know dearly and I've known for many years, included in his best camera phones ever. Ready?
I mean, you're going to get some Nokias, but he didn't have just Nokias in there.
I'm going to go with, yes, something like an N8, probably either the 1020 or the 808 PureView.
All of that.
And the 2 more I would go with, there's definitely going to be either probably a P20 or a P30 Pro from Huawei there, because that is definitely in that realm there. And quite possibly he's gone back to something like a Sony Ericsson K750i from way back when.
So this is a good segue to have the folks listen to last week's podcast. You're not completely wrong. You're right on those 3 Nokias. The other ones were mentioned in passing by me, but they weren't his top picks. One of his top picks I think is really interesting, and I agree with 100%, and I think you would agree with too, is the iPhone 4.
Oh yeah, that changed phones.
I mean,
forever.
we're not just talking camera phones. We're talking any phone, right?
I wrote about the other day. What was it? 20 days ago was the iPhone's, the 19-year birthday since it went on sale. I think it was like 20 days ago. It was June 19th. I don't know what day it was. I tweeted about
late June.
Or early July. And I have an original here. And I was just looking at it and I was like, this thing changed so much. But then when I started thinking about it, I was like, okay, we're coming up to 20 years in January. I was like, what else did 4 made phones kind of like, honestly, it made people care about phones looking sexy again.
I know.
It made people care about cameras. It made people care about the color, materials, finish in a way that I don't think it really did in the smartphone era before that.
Indeed.
They're all very boxy.
So we have news.
Yes,
and I'm showing 2 of them right here. So for those of you listening, I have the Nothing Ear 3A and the Nothing Phone 4B in my hands. And I'm actually going to unbox these for the audience because I just got them yesterday. And I was like, this would be a good segue to get my Patreon audience some extra content. Among our ramblings about air conditioning and old phones, which they'll get as additional content as well. So let's get started. While I unbox this, why don't you tell us what you know of these devices? That way you can be like the narrator. So I've got a tab here.
So here we have, I'm going to do my best David Attenborough impression.
Awesome.
To be fair, I did watch a really good source on the 4B, which I'm sure Miriam will include. But right now we have the Nothing 3A. The wireless earbuds that offer a great mix of style, substance, and price. I like that color, actually. That pink color looks
that's the
hot.
hero color. It's pink, folks. Pink.
And you've got to give Nothing credit, because if you're willing to go... Apple made white their color. Pink can absolutely be pink, yellow, red, like the old Nokias, can be Nothing's kind of earphone color range.
Ear tips here. So I just opened the box. There was a divider. There's some ear tips in here. I'm not going to take them out. But hey, this is why I brought out my iPhone as my webcam, so I can have autofocus instead of my Neo's built-in webcam, which I normally use. And there's something else in here. Let's see. There's a manual. And I think that's it. There's no cable in here, strangely. So not even a cable, which is a good way to save money, because honestly, who needs a cable? Right?
Listen,
everybody has a USB-C to see
you
cables
just
somewhere.
touched on this. And obviously the EU mandating USB-C was inevitably going to lead to this. What is the point of a box anymore? Like, what if they literally gave it to us in nothing but the phone in a cardboard box, and on the wrapper around it, or the headphones, there's a QR code that you scan, that you can open up your guides and stuff.
So I'm now taking them out of their little wrapper, so I can show them to you with autofocus and everything. So this is what they look like. As you can see, the colored insert is a little more rounded corners than the original ear A wear. I've got the yellow ear A, and they're more squared off inside. Right? Yeah. And then this is the USB-C, and then you get some nice stuff down there. The hinges back here. And then if you open them up, ooh, look at that. There's little dimples here to keep them in place. And this is what the buds themselves look like. So here's the case without the buds. You can see the white and red color coding for left and right. And then...
are there any buttons on that case?
I think there is. Let me find it. There's got to be a button somewhere. It could be inside the case too. So here are the earbuds. And as you can see, they are the usual nice. The button is, I don't know if you'll see it. It's right where my fingertip is.
Yes,
see it?
Perfect.
So the feature is that you can record audio directly, like the earbuds are like a DJI mic. They record locally in the earbuds, either your phone calls or whatever you want.
Okay. When they record your phone calls, because I'll profess, I looked at I spent a lot of time going, okay, what is the phone B like? Because I was like, there's all the other news that I wanted to catch up, and I focused on the phone versus the earbuds.
Yeah, we'll get to the phone.
So I have a couple of questions for you. The recording on them.
You do a gesture. Right now, the gesture by default is pinch both stems. And apparently it records whatever audio it can hear at that point. So that's not the call. That's like whatever. And then I believe there's another gesture that if it's paired to your phone's nearby and it's, you're talking on the phone, it starts recording both sides. But it saves it on the earbud. And then it transfers them through the Nothing X app, right? Obviously. So that's what's cool about it. Because remember, the Ear 3, the more expensive one. These are $99, by the way, folks. If there are anything, again, I just took them out of the box. Here they are. So I don't know how they sound, but I assume that if they sound anything as good as the Ear A did, which were phenomenal, and any of the other earbuds they've made that are really fantastic, I'm going to be very happy. But the Ear 3, which are their flagship model, has a microphone on the case that lets you record audio.
Which I remember. But
it doesn't store it on the case, and it doesn't let you record calls. And the sound quality isn't great. So I'm really curious to see if the sound quality is good there, and or how long it can record. I think it says 2 hours.
Assuming
Yeah.
they've got the sound quality right. Because I agree with everything you just said about the A. That, love the style. Like, okay, this is a good idea. Oh, wow, that's interesting. We didn't think of that. And then you're like, yeah, you did a lot of thinking, but the execution kind of was hit and miss in some
this
places.
is the future. I think every earbud from now on should have this.
I completely agree with you. I also wonder if this is the future for nothing. Because look, there's just the DJIs of the world, yeah? And we know that nothing's done, and DJIs and Insta360s, etc. If you look at the way crazy idea, but if you look at the way Western markets are going, where you've seen how much DJI has been squeezed out of markets for Chinese competition concerns or security concerns, the inevitable is it starts to happen to everyone else. But because nothing is more of an established, and it's a London brand, you can easily see them trying to step into a market just to serve mics, just to serve things like that. And I was literally having a conversation on Twitter earlier about this. I think the challenge for nothing is, which is probably a segue into their phones, the reason they're making more affordable products and also trying to do things to stand out that you don't typically see in that product range is because they probably can't compete in headphones or in phones at that upper flagship level where the margins are so tight. You need to be like, I gotta go sell 10 million of these to be making money, and it's the perfect place for, I think, for nothing to sit. It's like, what can you give people for $100, $150?
Yeah. Look, I'm excited about these because here's the thing, folks. This is the reality out there. If you want a good pair of earbuds, yes, okay, AirPods Pro 3, sure. But that's if you're an iPhone user. And even then, I recommend you don't. I recommend right now, my favorite earbuds are the Galaxy Buds 4 Pro, especially if you're an Android user. It doesn't matter if you have a Samsung device or not. You can still get a ton of benefits. They sound absolutely phenomenal. My next choice would be either nothing, any of their earbuds, but preferably their more affordable ones are really good, honestly. I think I would stick with them because the difference between their more affordable and their higher end ones is not that huge. And then I would go with OnePlus or Oppo, Realme, whatever the entire, Oppo empire is there. The OnePlus buds, even the non-pro models, are phenomenal. And all of these buds that I just discussed, whether it's Samsung or Nothing or OnePlus, have excellent ANC, great battery life, phenomenal sound out of the box, and you can tune it on top of that. And, yes, these cheaper ones don't have wireless charging, but whatever, that's not going to kill you. The battery life is so good, and then plugging them in to charge via USB-C is going to be like a 20 to 30 minute affair to charge the whole case and everything. So I
will say, I agree with you partially. Look, wearing a pair of AirPods Pro 3 right now, I love these. I have an iPhone. I have every phone.
But if you're in an Apple ecosystem, I think I get it.
So
it's
where
just
I'm
the sound
going
quality isn't there. In my opinion, they're not in the same league as the other three that I just mentioned. It's just not there. Apple really needs to step it up.
Depends what you want. Because I would wager, and this is because I know you're an audiophile. Definitely have a lot of respect for your kind of reluctantly, but that's who you are. I'm not. I'm like, okay,
no, and I think that's why you're right.
And I'm not I'm going to spend even 20 minutes messing around with EQs.
But that's why I mentioned the AirPods when I started, because I don't want to dismiss them.
No, but where I wanted to go was, I was like, if you have an Apple product, go with the AirPods Pro 3. If you have an Android phone, go with, I'm honestly down the Galaxy Buds 4 Pro.
The Buds 4 Pro are it right now. They are so much better than everything else. And
it's funny because they're cheaper than the QC Ultra 2 earbuds, but they're more comfortable when you want to wear them for a 12-hour flight, Yeah,
no, they're absolutely outstanding. I think this is this is it. Don't get me wrong, the Nothing Buds and the OnePlus Buds are definitely very close behind. If you can get a good deal on them or whatever, yes. And especially if you have a device with LHDC, right? The codec, then you can't, the buds don't have that, the Samsung. So the OnePlus have that. If you're looking for LDAC support, nothing's your friend, right? But here's the thing. I'm listening to the Buds Pro 4 from Samsung without any high definition codec on my Pixel. And they still sound better than the other two with a better codec. So it really is very relative. It really depends on implementation. Anyway, I wanted to quickly mention that in case you're wondering why I just showed an unboxing of these earbuds on video, it's because, as I mentioned, there's a Patreon where you can get a video version of this podcast. And you get it a day in advance every week for $5 a month. Patreon.com/TNKGRL. And speaking of unboxings, this has got me very excited. This, unfortunately, they sent me the boring black color. I would have liked the blue or maybe even white. But
that blue looks stunning.
Let's take it.
Do you know what? Can I, whilst you're unboxing that,
you tell us about it.
The first thing I've got to say, I give humongous props to Nothing because they've done something I've been asking this year, especially that I've been asking people to do for the last 10 years.
Which
10 years ago, the best thing about phones in this industry was simply the fact that Nokia was like 20 years ago now, or whatever we want. 20 years ago, Nokia existed, and it wasn't black. That. It was the yellows, the greens, the crazy fluorescent colors. Nothing's done amazing to get us to that point. As for the 4B, as we covered, it comes in 3 colors. We have this lovely box, so you go from a white to an inside, and then Miriam's going to walk us through this box.
Yeah, I just took out the divider. I believe there's something in there. We'll take a look at it in a second. Let me pull the phone out, and then there's nothing left in the box, just so you know.
And I will say,
I took it out upside down. Oops.
I'm really interested, Miriam, in what you think the B stands for, because we both watched the same video, and I completely agree with Marquez.
I think budget. He nailed it. Budget. It's budget, right? Like let's be real.
And I love Akis to bits, and I love these guys to bits. Kakis, Carl, they're all amazing. But guys, it's easy to just say big, like say what it stands for. Just say brilliant if you don't want to say budget. But 6-line tweet to try and describe what a letter means is not clear ever. All
right. Before we get into the phone here, let's quickly look at what we've got for this divider here. I'm sure there's something in there, maybe a SIM removal tool.
And I'm going to quickly run through the...
See, I love it when they don't cheapen out and you get something out of there. So there's some documentation. Please refer to the... I think this is just safety and warranty. Let's see.
Whilst Miriam's doing that, I'll run through some of the key specs. So we're looking at 6.77-inch AMOLED. Oh, A rating, energy efficiency. Not bad.
Not bad. And here's a USB-C to C cable.
And then we've got Snapdragon 6 Gen 4.
Correct.
Not really surprising. And I do want to talk to you and get your opinion on where Nothing sits some of their processors. Oh, that's
GPU
not bad.
case. I love when these phones that are really affordable. What's the price point? 330 euros or 330 pounds?
Yeah, 330 euros and pounds. So we're looking at, even if you were to convert it out, it would be 399 roughly in the US.
I love that they still include a case. And then there's a SIM removal tool in here. Hang on. It's a very unique looking SIM removal tool. I'm not even sure how I get it out of here. Look at this thing. It's my face is disappearing, but you get it. Look at that. It's something. All right.
To be fair, OnePlus and Carl, and by extension, etc., are the people who gave us those really unique OnePlus. I forget which phone came with it, the pins, but they also had the covers and little lanyard holes so you could stick them on your key rings, and it was like the best SIM card tool in history for the people you were going after. Going back to the specs, we have a dual camera, the 50 megapixel main, 8 megapixel ultra wide.
Yeah. I think 16 for the front.
16 front facing. Doesn't look like there's autofocus, but that's generally to be expected at this price point.
But apparently, here's the thing that's interesting. The 50 megapixel main does have OIS. And I want to come back to that in a second, because this is a successor to 2 phones they previously made. And yeah, so as you can see, this is the black one. It's all polycarbonate. It has that little indent like the Phone 3a Pro does. Of course, Phone 3a Pro is made of aluminum. As you can see, that left a little bit of a It's definitely a fingerprint magnet. Well, I've barely touched it, and it's okay. I wiped out the iMac sticker remains, but the best cool part is that they actually have a proper glyph here with multi LEDs and the recording light. Wow.
Nice. See, finally, why do they put their best glyphs on their cheapest phones?
And yeah, I don't get it either.
And if they're listening to this, guys, we love you, but listen, you don't need to go and make something super fancy to charge to go and get for your non-A series, because generally we would be happy with a working glyph like this, you know?
Absolutely. Let's come back to this as well. Stereo speakers, which is something that I want to revisit alongside this OIS. As you can see below here, we have a SIM tray. I do not think this has micro SD. We have
no micro SD.
We have a USB-C and
I'll give you the specs on it.
Here, that's rounded and shiny and black, and then the power lock key and volume rocker that's matte and black and not rounded. Just to be clear, those are also black on the colored version, which is why I kind of feel like getting the black version was a bit meh, because I like that contrast, you know? But look, this phone is a big phone. As you mentioned, it's got a proper AMOLED. It does have 120 hertz refresh, 1080p, Snapdragon 6 Gen 4. Very, very, kind of budget chip here. I mean, I know there's Snapdragon 4 series, but let's not go there, okay? Strange that they didn't use a MediaTek chip for this. So the reason I'm bringing all this up, right? You know, Nirave, where I'm going with this. Last year, they made two phones that were very, very similar. There was a Nothing Phone 3A Lite and the CMF Phone Pro 2. Or Phone 2 Pro. The CMF Phone 2 Pro was the one you wanted to get because it had 3 cameras in the back and one was an actual proper telephoto. It did not have more than 2x zoom, and I think it did not have OIS, but it was actually a pretty solid sensor, pretty solid setup. Now, the main camera did not have OIS and there were no stereo speakers, but it was an incredible value. I think it sold for $279 US or something like that. Like, amazing. MediaTek.
I have one over there. It's one of those phones where you're like,
it was one of my top 5 phones of 2025. It had a MediaTek.
I need a phone for somebody who doesn't need something super smart, but just needs something that works and is a bit funky, a bit different, makes them feel good. You're like, go buy a CMF phone. Be happy.
No, it was amazing. It was amazing. And then the Nothing Phone 3 Lite was exactly the same, except that they gimped the camera system by removing the telephoto and putting just a depth sensor in there. And then it also didn't have stereo speakers. It also didn't have OIS. And, the displays might have been slightly better than this display, though, less bezel. But here's the thing. Both of them are powered by MediaTek Dimensity 7000 something, which was pretty damn good performance for the money. And both of them were really cheap. Now, the Nothing one had I think a single LED for glyph. It was a very basic glyph, and it had that design where the entire back was transparent and you could see underneath. Whereas this is like the Nothing Phone 3A Pro. It's only like a third of the phone. The rest is really cheap to make because it's just polycarb, right? So look, I think this is a good compromise. Considering the price of RAM has gone up, this has 8 gigs and either 128 or 256. This is a 128 model. Considering the prices of RAM and storage has gone up, and generally inflation has been out of control, making this phone, it's a little more expensive, around 400 US, but it does have stereo speakers, have OS on the camera. It still has an OLED display at 120 hertz. And has a decent processor, right? So I think it's a pretty decent compromise. And I think it lives up more to the brand that is Nothing, right? Would you agree to that? It
also has a 5200 milliamp hour battery.
Oh yeah,
which
the biggest
is bigger
battery
than an S26 Ultra.
Yeah.
It's humongous.
And with that chip, it's going to last forever.
I give them huge credit. 33 watt wired with PPS, with power delivery, and 7.5 watt reverse wired. Now,
and guess what? Last year they also had 30 watt wireless wired.
Can I just say though, the reverse wired, and this is really prescient because last night I was out in London for a one of the PR companies was having drinks and a summer mixer.
And you need to charge another phone, and there you go.
Well, I actually gave them one of their PR people my power bank, left it with them by accident, got on the train, and my iPhone's at 3%. And thankfully, I threw on my Find X9 Pro. I had already charged up to like 98%. and then two cable plugged into it, charge my iPhone to 25. Oh wait, my razor's on low. Plug that in, charge that up. Just even though 7.5 watt isn't massive, it is more than enough to throw it in your bag and to charge virtually anything, even someone else's phone in a pinch. Of course, if you're using it, it's a different story, but as long as it's sitting there, that battery, that thing will actually be really useful, especially people in the markets like India where it's going to go.
Yeah. So let's fire it up here real quick. I'm going to turn it on. I'm holding the power button. Hopefully it's charged and it goes. Let's find out. Yep, there we go.
You said it lives up to the brand, yeah? Which I agree
I
with
think
to
so.
an extent.
I mean,
but
it could be cheaper. Honestly, 400 US, considering you could get like less than 300 last year. Oof.
Where I'm going as well, which, you know, we knew this pricing structure was coming. Carl's not been anything but transparent about the costs in the industry, and I give him massive credit for that, yeah? And the loyal Nothing fans, absolutely, they're the ones that are going to be like, yeah, we understand because we appreciate Carl being honest and all of that.
Yeah.
I just wonder, you look at the phones it replaced, the phone 3A last year. It's one of the most spectacular looking phones ever.
But I don't think it replaced the 3A. It replaced the 3A Lite, which was very mad.
3A Lite.
But the CMS Phone 2 Pro was the one that I think is a bummer that we lost.
That's you. It's got the current Nothing identity, sure. Yeah. And I mean, we're looking at the black one here. When I look at the pictures or I look at like the videos we've seen,
the blue and white one,
look at the blue one, and I'm like,
I agree.
Wow, that's a stunner. That's the phone you walk down the street and you're like, I think I know what that is.
So you can see here a little bit that is a little bit more bezel than the previous two phones, right? But it's still an AMOLED. Here's the thing you have to understand. We're going to talk about a OnePlus phone that just came out in India. And I have here, I didn't bring it up, but you saw it in previous episodes. I showed it to you if you were on the Patreon. I have the Realme 16T here, which is their really, really affordable 16 series phone. And those two phones, the one we're going to talk about and this Realme, have switched from what they had before, which was OLED 1080p, to LCD 720p. That is what the memory and storage crisis is bringing. Yes. Okay. Are you ready for this, Nirave? The Realme 15T, type in GSM Arena, Realme 15T specs for last year's model. Do a compare with the 16T specs. Same price, overall same specs, but the display has taken a dump. You know, like, sure, it has slightly bigger silicon carbon battery, but whatever. To me, having a 720p IPS panel with a massive chin in Motorola style at the bottom is unacceptable for Realme, even a budget phone. It's just a bad display. Like, you know, it's bright. It has 144 hertz refresh. That's about all it has for it. But
I like
all
that
I'm trying to say is that
a 50 megapixel main and basically, according to this, just an auxiliary lens. It's like I don't even
it's just
know
a
if they're
downgrade.
even trying
Like,
anymore.
if you're buying that phone, get the 15T from last year. But the point I'm making is that they didn't cheap out here. They gave us an OLED, even though they gave us a slightly more bezel-y OLED. I still think that
they got
they made an effort,
right. And they got the basics right.
We cannot underestimate how much has changed in a year in terms of inflation. Like, it's just insane. And the fact that they're not cheaping on storage and RAM on this is, I think, pretty important. So I'm pretty happy, other than getting the black one.
No, but Miriam, you make a very good point, yeah? And this will obviously segue into this, to the Realme, as you said. Surely common sense has to prevail at some point. Why not quite literally take last year's phone, take whatever supplies you have and just run with that, or start to shrink the amount of devices you're launching?
You mean what Google did with the Pixel 10a and what Moto did with the Razer flips? Yeah.
Yes, because guess what? If you still have a lot of that sitting in the thing, you could honestly badge it up as the Pixel 10a, which is last year's 2026 edition kind of thing. You could play the same game to get this boost that comes from.
I agree, but I think what's happened here is, you know, Oppo, aka Realme, has supply chains and parts bins that are very deep, right? Like, they're sitting on a lot of that X part, whatever. But I don't think Nothing has quite that depth of of parts spinning and choices and supplier.
Oh, nothing doesn't. Yeah, I
runway,
meant the Realme. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think and of course, also nothing probably makes them in batches of 100,000 or something, and then they stop making them, right? Whereas that Realme 16T, even though I'm not happy with the display, it's a great phone overall, other than the display. But they're probably making like several 100,000 batches at once. So I think that's why Carl, his team, when they went ahead to plan this phone, they were like, we don't have the supply anymore for these parts that we want. So let's improvise and see what we can create. And then I think also, having this back panel being 2/3 just polycarb with no decorations
Saves
of any kind
fortune.
other than this indent, which can be done in basically as a mold, like, I think it's much cheaper, much cheaper to make.
It would definitely have, I would assume, that versus transparent back with all of that, or whatever design or whatever thing they went. You're probably looking at multiple percentages of changes to the BOM cost, if not double digit.
Yeah,
that's how much the savings would make sense.
Yeah,
we briefly talked about this Realme, and I don't know if you want to skip ahead to that, because I really want to dump into that price offering structure, why someone would even bother,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I feel like I'm torn, right? Because I feel like the 10A is a better phone in one way than the 9A. It has satellite connectivity. If that matters to you, then buy the 10A. Otherwise, the 9A is I mean, I don't know if you can still get it now, but it was for a while, they were both sold at the same time, and one was way cheaper. It's the same, like, I haven't checked recently, but for the last few weeks before I went to Computex, so in May at least, you could buy what's it called? You could buy the Razer Ultra from last year for half the price on Amazon, brand new, than the new Ultra. And we know the differences between these two phones are minor at best. And why would you even... So I see your point. But at the same time, like, that new Razer, once they run out of the old Razer stock, is going to be discounted. It's going to be discounted, right? It's inevitable. So maybe it doesn't matter so much.
It is shocking how that Motorola stat was really fascinating, because we went to LA for the launch. We were there, and I just finished reviewing last year's FIFA World Cup 2026 edition.
Yeah.
And there's like a $400 price difference between them, but it's only 600 to 1,000. Like, it's almost like double the price, and you're sitting there going, so you downgraded it, and now it's way more. Where does this jive almost?
Yeah, I don't know. I think right now I'm recommending people buy last year's phone. And here's the thing: if, as I said last week in the show or the week before, if you're looking at buying a base iPhone right now, buy your 17 right now while you can, because the 18 is not coming out in September this time. It's coming out next year in early spring or late winter.
In September, we'll see the price of the iPhone go up all across the board.
Absolutely, but we'll also see it go up on the 18, 18E, and Air 2 next spring. And so the 17 is so good as a base iPhone right now that you should not hesitate. If you're not looking at a Pro, now, if you're looking at a Pro, it really depends on your budget. It's going to be more expensive. But if, we're hearing the rumors of variable aperture on the main camera or whatever on the 18 Pro and Pro Max, that's got me very excited. If you're a photography buff, maybe wait a bit. But if you don't care about that, buy a 17 Pro, 17 Pro Max now, because they're going to go up at least $100, maybe $200, in my opinion. They're going to go up a lot. Like, as much as Razer did. Like,
so, yeah, we're obviously seeing these price changes across the board. So, because I know you love a good segue, what do you think Samsung's going to do with pricing?
I like that segue, because I was going to say we do need to cover the news. So there's 4 timed news announcements you need to know about. The first one is Samsung's Unpacked, which is happening July 22nd in London. I will be there. Obviously, you will be there since you are in London right now. And we're expecting a Z Fold 8 regular form factor, Z Fold 8 wide, which is a passport form factor, very much like the original Pixel Fold and like the Oppo Find N and N2, which were the first 2 folding phones they made. And then we're going to get a Z Flip 8, probably not a Z Flip 8 Fan Edition, And we're going to get a Watch 9, probably two, classic and a regular, and of course a what is it called? Ultra, a new Ultra watch, right? So
yes, the fact that it's going to take us this long to explain any of this to anybody in
well, we're
terms
not
of their
going to dive
lineup
into the detail. I just want people to mark their calendars mostly. But what I want to discuss with you specifically is what are you going to do about pricing? And related to that, there is rumors that not only are they not going to have a Z Flip 8 Fan Edition, which to me makes sense because it's kind of a meh phone last year compared to the fact that the Razors exist. Like, why would you buy that?
The base Razor dumped
even the
all over
Flip
the
8
regular
was,
Flip.
You know, even the Flip 7 was a hard sell last year. So I think because of Moto, but I think that there's a rumor that next year there will not even be a Z Flip 9. So we're going to get a Z Flip 8 this year. And I don't expect it to be much different. So far, the rumors of it's going to be very similar. What are your thoughts on two things? What is Samsung going to do for pricing? And number two, do you think Samsung's going to drop out of the Flip race and give it to Moto? It seems crazy to me that they would do that.
I have so many thoughts. Okay, the third thing I want to jump in and add to those two questions, and I'll keep it brief, is Samsung, I think, has this confusing point where it doesn't know which direction foldables.
I mean, Samsung is always very confused, or at least confusing to me.
I think this is actually critical. It's launching two folding phones of completely different form factors, and it's positioning 8 Ultra versus 8, with one trying to be driven more towards its current taller form factor, the wider one to kind of compete against the iPhone Fold, which we expect, or the Ultra, whatever they call it, the iPhone Ultra, etc. But it doesn't actually know which way to swing this, because
I think it's really doing Samsung. It's typical Samsung. Dartboard, throw dart.
That's what they're doing. A few different foldable makers this year. Cannot name names, cannot say a word. What I have been told is, and then what my key takeaway is, all of them are prepping not to launch both, not to keep the existing form factor, but to shift directly where Apple's moving the form factor. And it's probably the best move, because I said this on Twitter earlier. If like the iPhone Fold is going to sell probably more foldables over time than maybe Samsung has sold in the lifetime of the Galaxy Z Fold so far, which I think is a few million or whatever, maybe. It's a complete different market shift. And the segue here is, you look at the Fold, you look at the Flip 8, the Flip FE, the Flip 7, the Flip 6. They had an idea. This is where we're going. And they were really good at getting to that point. But what I think their challenge is, and this we're going to see time and time again, is they're perfect at launching a market and steering a market into one direction. You look back at the original Galaxy Note and the Note 2, one of my favorite phones. That's why we have big phones, people.
Yeah.
But do you know what they struggle with the most? When they have credible, clear competition. And I think they'll drop the fan edition of the Flip, because they went, oh, wait.
Who cares about that? What I'm worried about is them dropping the Flip next year altogether. How is that even possible? How do you see that to Moto like that?
If they're being outsold 4-1 on Flips, in not just in Latin America, wherever, we're talking in the US, yeah? And Motorola has done what Samsung hasn't been able to do, which is get all of those people who see a gorgeous looking flip phone and go but they use iPhones, they go, oh, I want that, but I'll wait for the Apple one. Motorola's like 35% new customers. Like, I can see Samsung dropping out, but where it gets challenging for me, and this is not something I'm predicting, but something I think should be on everyone's mind, is, so they'd say they do drop out of Flip next year, and they put everything into the folding market. But Apple's in, Motorola's in, everyone's
Oppo is in, Vivo is in, Xiaomi is in,
Vivo's in, Xiaomi's in, Honor's in, and many of these are attacking.
Oh my God, Honor is one of the leaders.
The only thing Samsung had going for it, in terms of, no, not the only thing. Obviously, global market, etc., market share.
Ecosystem,
the only market where Samsung had no credible competition for a very long time, even until this year, basically, was the US. And in the space of 3 months, they've got two incredibly well-funded and clearly very, very competent tech companies going for their blood in the two categories. Because it's not just Apple. The Moto Fold's one of my favorite foldables.
It's amazing. It's an incredibly good phone.
It's the most incredible blend mix of both experience and feel.
It is the best, in my opinion, the best folding phone book style you can buy in the US right now.
In the US,
I think it's better than Z Fold 7.
I'm concerned about folding phones 4 or 5 years from now, because you look at the trifold. Samsung sold bucket loads more than they ever expected to, and then they killed it. Like, why would you not just keep going, even if you have to wait 5-6 months for that? Because people will keep that and wait for it.
Huawei is rumored to come out with a 3rd gen. So, okay. So let's regroup for a second. Let's assume that they cede the Z Flip market to Moto. I would argue that Moto's making too many flip phones. I think that because of this crisis we have with storage, memory, it's not just storage and memory, it's general inflation, right? People are not going to be able to afford things, and folding phones are inherently more expensive. So I think the Plus needs to go. We need a Razr Ultra and a Razr Regular. The Razr Regular is the unsung hero, in my opinion. I think it's the one to get.
Absolutely love the Razr Regular, especially
the
last year, this year.
Doesn't bring much to the table. And what they need is either keep the Plus or reduce the Ultra's price. That's
Can I tell you why the Plus exists? I'll tell you exactly why the Plus exists, okay? I think it's literally down to market conditions. And I'll tell you why I say that. The price of the Ultra in the States is $1,500.
Yeah, it's insane.
The price of the Regular is $7,000. They needed something to sit in the middle. Do you know what the price of the Ultra is in the UK?
How much?
£1,100. About the same as a Flip 8. You see where the pricing structure, the landed costs they face is probably the reason they had to create that. And remember, the Plus is only in North America. It is not in Europe or anywhere else. So it exists solely to serve that market. And I think it's more to serve the carrier needs and the kind of market needs to sit in the middle and make sure that they're not completely... I still think it's too much choice.
I think they're spreading themselves thin. I think this is a bad idea. Anytime I see a company, and HTC died because of this, LG had this problem, Moto still, I think, has this problem. There's too many phones. Now, Apple has too few phones, in my opinion, but although there's changing that now, we got 6 almost now.
Right? Apple's going down the Samsung
don't you
path.
Agree
it's
that
taking them.
One of the things I love about, Samsung in the US is that it's really easy to follow their roadmap. You got the A series, you got the S series, maybe you got an FE in there somewhere in the middle, and you got the Z series. And that's it. Simple,
you've
easy
got the
to
J
get.
series. You've got others.
No. In the US.
Oh, in the US.
The J does not
in the
exist.
US.
The M does not
exist. In the
exist.
US, my bad.
That's my point. My point is it's easy to follow. And Moto is relatively easy to follow in the US too. You've got the G series, you've got the Edge, and you've got the
At least
Razr.
until you look into the G series. That's where it gets a little more confusing.
But my point is, in the US there's only 3 Gs, right?
Yeah.
4. There's the regular G, there's a Play, which is a cheap one. There's the Power, which has a big battery, and there's the Stylus. So that's not too bad. And then you have the Edge, which is phenomenal.
We'll never forget you.
But abroad, like in South America, there are like 20 different Gs. It's like...
Yeah. But Miriam. Okay, this is where the US is the most unique tech market, yeah? The bottom end of the US market do you know what? We're serving the mass of people that have very little money and all of that. Doesn't massively exist to the same scale as it does in Latin America and stuff like that.
I agree, but I'm just saying
as a comparative level. So
they need, they need $50 increments. I get that, but I still think that that's too much. Like, I still think.
Yeah, do you know what though? It's working for them. Look, we don't know the sales of individual Razer models versus others. Yeah, well, I'm
True.
sure we could
Yeah.
look it up and guesstimate, or one of our lovely analyst friends will have done that. Great. I'm not looking that up. But what I will say is, it works. If I was Moto, and we talked to Alice and Barcelona and stuff, I'm like, I wouldn't change a thing. I'd just do more. I'd go and build a fold. Do you know what comes next? Build 2 folds. Go after both. No, because guess what? The reason they're doing this is because if you look at the technical kind of sunk cost of building the Razer Regular on its own, say, yeah, the actual additional fixed cost R&D sunk isn't much higher if you want to go and add all these other lines in, and to have those different price points and to have that. It's only too much if you're looking within the broad scheme of, I need to buy a phone. Now let me start researching. But most people that they're going after go into a store. When you go into a store, you kind of go, oh, I want some foldables. I'm going to focus on whatever's in front of me.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying,
I
think it's too much. I think it's too much. And I think it's too complex for people, especially once they get their phone subsidized by the carrier. It doesn't matter what the $50 difference. In some markets, 100% agree with you. India, South America, Africa. But in the West...
No. But Miriam, one last point. Sorry. You just nailed it. Once they get their phone subsidized, here's the kicker. And I spent over a decade in retail.
I know you did.
If there's a $50, $100 increment, especially with the likes of T-Mobile and other carriers in the US, you're given that this is how much we're allowing you to actually go and finance. And the difference, a lot of people, if you're like, okay, my allowance is $750. Oh man, this phone's $799. I've got to pay the $50. Well, do you know what? If I do that, maybe I should just pay the extra $30 to go and maybe go to an iPhone, or maybe pay the other $40 to go into this, and it introduces this. Whereas if you can go, I really like that phone. Oh man, I haven't got that $50 right now, which is a very key fact with the world getting more expensive in all cases. And then the salesperson goes, do you know what? You can have the same brand, same product family, slightly lower cost, and it will cost you won't have to pay anything up front. Boom.
If that's what the carriers want, I understand, but that's not what I want, and I don't think it's right. I think that phones should exist at 3 tiers: budget, mid, high. And if you want in high, they can be a camera phone subsection and a folding phone subsection. But I really do think that it's way too complicated. And simplification is way to the game. I think Apple's too complicated right now. Apple's
I think Darwinism
is a good example of simplicity.
Darwinism will take us to the natural course of market effects is literally going to be whichever ones end up being most popular in terms of form factor. The market will naturally gravitate in that direction over a generation.
So the second big thing you should mark your calendar for is the Google event, which is on August 12th. This is the Made by Google Pixel event. We're expecting new Pixel phones. Strangely, of course, it's going to be an 11 Pro, 11 Pro XL, but also strangely, and I say strangely because of the conversation we just had about folding phones, apparently also a Pixel 11 Fold. And I don't know if they do the same thing they've done with the 10 Pro Fold, where they just freaking, what did they do? They just rebadged. I don't see Google making another folding phone that's a completely new design. Their existing design, if they recycle it one more time like they did with the Pixel 10a, is going to be a third recycle of a form factor that's obsolete because it's too thick and is also the wrong shape now because, as you saw, the big thing is passport style form factor. I don't get it. They think they should just drop that phone. I'm not saying it's a bad phone. I loved it when I reviewed it, but it was hard to love it this year when the first one really nailed it. And then they didn't make the second one more competitive. The second of the tall form factors. They did the original Fold as well, right?
I think Google took a punt that people would care about magnetic charging. They wouldn't care about thickness. They wanted this form factor. Right. And I think the way that everyone else has gone, and the somewhat deserved and somewhat probably partially a little harsh criticisms of the 10 Pro Fold will have whether they listen or not is a different story. We'll have kind of, they can never say we didn't know, you know?
But my point is, how many did they sell last year? Like, again, last year, if you bought a Pixel 10 Pro Fold, you might as well have bought the 9 Pro Fold. You didn't get much better. You got a slightly better chip and you got magnetic charging. And that was basically it. Like,
actually, do you know what's interesting? That's complete tangent, but the 10 Pro Fold was a bigger upgrade than I think the 9 Pro Fold than we give it credit for.
Oh, yeah,
and
I agree.
The reason is because I know someone who went from 9 to 10 after an insurance
battery life
replacement. Yeah. No, and I don't know why. Well, I think it was battery. And he literally said, even though it looks the same phone and it feels similar, it's night and day. Like, it's massive, massive improvement from the time he spent with the 9 Pro Fold. But again, the 11 Pro Fold, if it exists, it's more of a vanity project than something like, this is going to be the one that sells.
I mean, let's see. Maybe they surprise us. Maybe they go back to making a Pixel Fold original form factor, and it's thin and light, just like maybe they're going to jump right in and compete with Apple and Samsung, and we'll be totally blown away by it. Like, I'm on board with that. But if it's just another rehash, I'm just going to be like, oh my God. It'll feel like the Razors, where it's like the third year now. We have pretty much the same Razors, except for the Ultra, which really changed everything. And then now the Ultra is too expensive.
But the key thing there is it will feel like the Ultra, like the Razors, sure. But Razors, the difference is the Pixel feels dated, outdated, old.
Yeah, whereas the Razor is a solid, like the Ultra is a phenomenal Razor. Yeah,
there is nothing. It's the best flip phone. You could change little things about the design, but they've got the design down.
It is the best folding flip, absolutely. Okay, next event you need to mark your calendars for is Apple, which is, we don't know the date, but the rumors are strongly pointing at September 8th. So mark your calendars again, PSA for you guys. This is a good segue to talk about my MacBook Neo review, which is available finally on hardware.com. I spent a lot of time on this review, 27 days on the road with the MacBook Air in various places. And it's great. I give it an editor's choice. It's 2,700 words of review, so I would suggest you read it all. There's a lot of stuff in there. It's not everybody. A lot of people disagree, but I think most people here that know me and listen will agree that it's not about the specs, it's about the experience, and they nailed the experience.
Okay. This is going to be interesting. So I've not published a review of the Neo yet. I did buy one, and I took it away on a trip. I haven't got published it because I haven't got around to it. It's busy coding and all of the other work and stuff. And I took it on a trip. And it was fascinating because I took it on a trip for a week and then I came back. I was here for a day and then I went to Moto. On that trip, I realized the Neo is a wonderful product until you want to be until you want to do anything resembling what I consider serious work. For me,
well, I disagree because I did all my serious work with it for 27 days.
My caveat to this is, my caveat to this is, it could have been just a unit at the time, but I set mine up fresh and everything. And for me, it lacked. It was missing that extra. There was always just felt.
It really depends. What are you coming from? Where are you coming from? What is your normal Mac every day?
I have an Air. I have
which Air do you have though?
And I've had the M1, the M2, and the M5.
Currently, what do you have?
M5.
Okay. Completely different story. I came from an M2 Air. You know the M2 Air I came from. Into the Neo. And it's honestly zero difference. In fact, the SSD is faster because the M2 Air I have is the base model with the crappy 256 gig storage. And I got the 512 gig storage.
Because I know exactly.
Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about. The Neo I have is 512. I bought it with my own money. So for me, it's just an upgrade. Like in my everyday Macs that I use, my desktop Macs, by the way, the Neo is recording this right now. My desktop Macs are a M4 Mac Mini with 16 256 and an external 1 terabyte SSD, Thunderbolt SSD. So I don't use the internal 256 at all, just for like occasional storage or some stuff. And that's honestly, obviously way faster, but I don't really notice day to day. The only time I really notice is when I'm rendering in Final Cut or DaVinci. Then, of course, the M4 is twice as fast as the M2 or the Neo. And then my other Mac this is in San Francisco, the Mac Mini for my desktop. And for my desktop here, I have an iMac M3 with 8 gigs of RAM. And trust me, the difference between an 8 gig M3 and an 8 gig M2, other than the SSD being quite fast because it's 512 gigs, so that's where I'm coming from. See,
yeah,
so
you're in that level. I'm more at the $1,000, $1,200
yeah, if you're coming from
level,
an Ultra or a Pro chip of any kind, if you're coming from an M5 of any kind, you're going to notice a difference. And I think that's valid. But I think you have to understand, my perspective was, I wanted to test this. I know the intended purposes, and I'm doing more than the intended purpose, quite a bit more creative work than the intended purpose, and it passed with flying colors. So that's kind of why my perspective was.
No, but you know where mine doesn't come from the only qualitative portion of, okay, it feels slower. There were fundamental, there were a few like key bits that for me, like Chrome. Okay, I mean, Chrome we know should be fine, but I'm running 5 tabs, nothing crazy heavy, and it's collapsing. It's crashing. Like,
that's odd because I'm running like 20 tabs.
Yeah, you see this is where I caveated the very beginning of my statement and why I haven't published a review ultimately, because I'm not sure if that is actually the MacBook Neo experience, because it probably isn't. But I only had a week. I had a week with it. I used it whilst I was away. I was like, cool, we'll get through this. I had a day to make a decision. I was like, I'm getting myself an Air because that's the easy choice,
Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, the Neo form factor, funny enough, I have a 13-inch Air, and they feel like they're very similarly sized, yet the Neo feels like they feel smaller. It feels more compact. It feels more fun. Like, there's so many reasons to like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, when I bought mine, I got citrus as well.
We should point out that, and this is the important part, the price went up 2-3 weeks ago by $100, which is a bummer. Just before my review too, it's so annoying because I had to change some of my wording because I called it an outstanding value in my initial review. I had to change it to a great value because $100 is $100. But here's the good news. Refurbished units are now available, at least on the US store, which means that you can save that $100 back. And having bought a number of refurbished Macs in the past, they're absolutely mint, and they come with warranty and everything. You never have to worry about it. Do not buy one refurbished from Amazon, but from Apple Store, 100%. You'll be 100% okay.
You get the same exact. You get a brand new exterior, and just the internal hardware has been repurposed, and ultimately, that's perfectly fine if you're saving money, because the only refurb you should ever buy is really Apple, because they're brilliant.
Absolutely. Final date to put in your calendar, minor date compared to the other 3, but important for those of us who are nerds and who are keeping track of what's going on in the smartphone world. Snapdragon Summit, which is Qualcomm's tech conference, is on September 22nd to 24 in Hawaii. And by the way, the Google event will be in New York, and the Galaxy event in London, and the Apple event, of course, will be in Cupertino. So Snapdragon,
just a few events coming up, basically.
Elite Gen 6, I guess. That's what we're going to get. Question is, will it be 2 nanometers or 3 nanometers? And I'll be there, so I'll let you guys know. So, mark your calendars for that one. And then, I wanted to talk about this because we don't have a huge amount of time left, but OnePlus, we talked about OnePlus, and I mentioned earlier that OnePlus made the same mistake as Realme did on this budget phone. Now, it's an India market phone. The N series just announced for OnePlus not too long ago. We could have an entire podcast about OnePlus, and maybe you and I should have that. But
the stupidest thing they've done is use the letter N. Because they've just tarnished in the OnePlus, Oppo, whatever group, they have tarnished the most sacrilege.
I know, and more
it is like Samsung putting the letter S on something cheap and downgrading.
I know, it's weird.
And also, stupid business decision.
And also, it's like the N series from Nokia was a higher and it just doesn't make sense. Anyhow, all this to say that OnePlus looks like it's pulling out of Western markets. There's lots of articles around that. We could have a whole podcast about it. It's clear it's happening. For example, if you go to the UK store, the European store right now, they they kind of like direct you to buy an Oppo phone instead. Stuff like that. Also, they're going to be unifying not just ColorOS and Oxygen, which have already happened, but Realme UI, which is very similar to ColorOS, is also going to be unified. So I think all these phones now in the year or so will be shipping with ColorOS. The Realme phones, OnePlus phones.
So first, that's
Oppo.
a really good idea.
I think it's super
ColorOS
smart. Yeah, because it didn't make much sense. They're so similar, it doesn't make any sense, right, at this point.
And the crazy, it's actually the perfect business move, because if you look at how Xiaomi works, you don't see Poco go off and do an entirely brand, like,
it's just a slightly different skin, but
UX.
it's
the same underlying. They're not trying to build this
it's
whole
hyper
platform.
OS. Exactly.
The good thing is, this move makes me suggest and think that in the future you could see the OnePlus and the Realme brands come back out as their own bits, but at least they've got all the shared fundamentals right within it. The reality is, Oppo's doing the right thing for the Oppo group of companies.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
And the only way they survive, the only way that they can go and scale and build that competition is by putting all resources into one brand and one brand only, really.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think it makes sense. But I'm just pointing this out as one of the signs that something's going on with OnePlus, obviously. And then the other thing is they've definitely said that they were going to focus on India, and fair enough. India is very budget, mid-range centric. So they came out with this N series. Terrible naming, but here we are. And the N6 is the first one. It's finally officially out. And the specs are problematic because it's like the Realme 16T I mentioned before. This is a 720p IPS panel. And it's just like, come on.
This is
really low end, isn't it?
Ugly. What the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And it's 200. It's right now. Sorry. In GBP, it's 180, which is not, that's okay. Let's see what that comes out to in dollars,
Yeah, what is it in dollars?
$250 before anything else. This is...
Okay. Here's what's weird about this. Like, the chin isn't so bad compared to the Realme. The Realme really has quite the 5-mile away visible chin thing. But here's what I don't understand. If you're going to make an LCD, fine. Maybe you want to save money. This is a dire situation we're in. At that price point, memory and storage are really expensive. I get it. But why don't you go with a 1080p LCD? Like, who cares about 120 hertz, 144 hertz? Like, give it a higher res than high refresh. I don't...
Miriam, though, there's one problem. I can understand all of this and the conversation about higher components and all of that, yeah?
Yeah.
If this had 8 gigs of RAM. This thing is 4 and 6.
Oh, God,
which means I doubt that a 4 gig RAM or 6 gigabytes of RAM has been affected in price, because if you look at where the world has gone in the last 4 years, what this screams to me is we're digging deep into the into the bucket of parts to find the parts that we don't need.
We found a bunch
this isn't
of
going to do any
LCDs
AI
from 10
features or
years
anything
ago.
at 250. Yeah.
Here's the good news, though. There is one good thing about this phone that I think should be worthwhile. It's running Oxygen OS, so that's nice, and it's running an 8,000 milliamp hour battery, which is
with 45 watt SuperVOOC, which is also impressive.
Which is really nice. So look, it's India, but it's clear that OnePlus is no longer going to be a big part of the Oppo group, and it's certainly not in the West. And I really doubt we're going to get a 16 in North America or the West. I think the OnePlus 16 flagship will be in not India, maybe not even India. I think it's going to definitely be China, of course. But it's a sad state of affairs, isn't it?
I would wager that I've been to enough Oppo stores in China where OnePlus probably takes up a quarter or less as the store footprint in a lot, and that's in their big standalone stores. If you go into a mall kiosk, it's a quarter of a wall. Yeah. I can see this easily start to die out, because ultimately Oppo's the Chinese brand. It always has been.
It always was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a sad thing. We should have a podcast about it sometime.
We should do a big group podcast of the
Yeah, I think
tales
Kevin Nether needs to be
of
on that. He's a
OnePlus.
huge OnePlus fan. Redmi K90 Ultra. I just want to mention that that phone is finally out after millions of rumors. It is kind of a gaming focused. K series is K series is the flagship for Redmi. This is the Ultra. The others have been out before. I believe the K90 Pro or Pro Max is the equivalent to the Poco F8 Ultra, which I reviewed on. If you go to geardiary.com, you'll check it out. Great phone. But this is got a fan instead of the subwoofer in that slot on the camera pod. And it's an 8 Elite, not Gen 5. And the specs are pretty solid. 1.5K AMOLED, 165 hertz. It's got an 550 milliamp hour battery, 100 watt wired charging, no wireless, but it's China only. But it's worth mentioning because it's interesting that Redmi is essentially making a gaming phone with decent specs, right?
Yeah, it looks good and it's an interesting move, and I'm like, okay, let's see where you go, because more companies need to do these phones, I think, or at least attempt it.
I agree, and it's good looking. And its metal frame has the little antenna bar, so it's not cheap. And price in China starts at $470, but Chinese prices you can't compare. It's like a different world out there. Couple of things. You're speaking of Moto earlier and magnetic Qi2 wireless charging. Guess what? There's a strong teaser out there from Moto for the Edge 70 Max, which is going to be probably available in South America and possibly in Europe, because we're not getting it here in the US or Canada. But magnetic Qi2 wireless charging finally on a Moto. So that would be the third company, right, making Qi2 with magnets available on a phone after HMD and then Google, of course. And I welcome my new magnetic overlords. I want this on every phone, honestly. It's
not going to happen on every phone.
No, I know, but I want it
until we flip consumer, until it becomes about function over form. This will be the niche product, and instead of being this is everything and then becoming niche, it's going to be like a headphone jack was, where it was everything and then nothing. This is going to sit there, nothing, and then it's just going to die out eventually. And people will move, I'm more convinced, to Samsung's approach, which is magnetic built into official cases.
But look, Apple's doing it. Apple's not going to remove the magnets from their phones. Like, this is a thing now. Everybody should line up and do it. Like, let's go. This is a standard feature at this point.
It's going to take, I reckon, 3-4 years and at least until we see phones.
Like, it's just silly. It's just silly that we end up buying these Aramid cases with magnets. I got one from my Fine X9 Ultra, by the way. It's great.
Ooh. Which I need a link.
I'll send you the link. It's Alibaba, actually. TK Bay. TK Bay got me that connection. All right. Last thing we have to talk about real quick is Huawei that just teased the Pura 90, which is their flagship camera phone. And it's coming on July 14th, so we should have it in 4 days. By the time you listen to the podcast, in 2 days. So GSM Arena has a cool little bunch of photos of this incredibly hot looking...
I have a Pura 80 Ultra over there that I did camera testing on. It's the most crazy looking, strange design device, but I absolutely actually really like it as a phone.
So if you click on if you click on the below there in the article, there's also a related article called the Pura 90 Pro Max has this crazy gradient color. 4X. I think that's the one I'm really excited about. Here, I'll put it in our chat.
It's also got that 200 megapixel 4X telephoto.
Yeah.
Oh wow. These
right. The gradients. I want those gradients on every phone.
I have a whole bunch of Huawei phones from the P series, all of those that had those funky looks. But
those gradients,
this just looks spectacular.
That's why I put it in the show notes for today, because look, there's not much we can talk about. We don't know too much about these phones. They're going to kick ass, of course, because they're incredibly good camera phones, like always. And they're going to have the weird Kirin chips on them, as always. But that's not a problem because they're so hot. I don't care. I want one so bad. I miss Huawei so much, man.
Oh, I gotta send their PR person an email. Well, you
yeah, if you have the connection, getting all the Pura X and stuff. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, well, I bought that Pura X.
You did?
The one I had before.
When you were in China?
And then I did a couple of reviews and then I sold it off because I was like, I don't really need it.
No, you don't want to. If you buy it, you don't want to keep it for sure.
No, I'm very interested in the wider one now.
Let's wrap up because it's time, but this is a fun show. We did cover a lot of cool nothing stuff. I'm very excited about. Do you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet while I show them the loot on video here?
Oh, yeah. This is welcome to Miriam's favorite section of the Mobile Tech Podcast, the swag. Anywho, you can find me on the internet. Find me on Twitter, Instagram at Nirave, Nirave, or at Niraveg on Instagram and Threads, etc. And also, I'm at hot.tech, so it's hot with the sim period tech, and on across all social and YouTube, hot.tech, spelled out HOTDOTTECH.
Excellent, folks. You should absolutely follow Nirave on all the internets and all the socials.
By the way, that whole spiel was inspired by Miriam's outro for this podcast. So
you're used to it. You've done it so many times now. Listen, Nirave is somebody you have to follow. Like, we've been buddies for years, but like the reality is, if there's one voice out there, Nirave's the one. Like, you have such a great take on everything. I really appreciate you being on the show. Folks,
thank you.
Tankgirl is my handle on social. TNKGRL, like a comic book character without the vowels. And that's my handle everywhere. On TikTok, you have to add my year of birth, 6'9", because I couldn't get my handle. But I'm primarily active on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. Everywhere else, I will check. So if you want to discuss this podcast with me and Nirav, have your comments, your questions, please post them on social. And then the podcast itself lives at mobiletechpodcast.com. I'm on all the major platforms, so please subscribe if it's your first time here. If you can rate or review the show with your app, that would be awesome. Please do that. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. There's some roughly monthly videos. The next one will probably be the Galaxy hands-on that I do in London at the end of this month. So check it out. Hands-ons, unboxings, reviews, once-ish a month. youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. You know how YouTube works, so like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell, comment, all that good stuff. And finally, I mentioned it earlier, there's a Patreon. If you want to support me, patreon.com/TNKGRL, like my handle, so Tankgirl without the vowels. And you can get a video version of this podcast a day in advance every week for $5 a month. That's the spiel. It's pretty simple. You get to see things like this Nothing Phone 4B and these Nothing Ear 3As. So check it out and support me if you can on Patreon, patreon.com/TNKGRL. And finally, I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And thanks, Nirave, for being awesome and joining me all the way from London late on a Friday night. I appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you for having me as always, darling, and I'll see you soon.
Absolutely. See you soon. Folks, stay tuned. I'll have Nirave on the show, of course, in the future again, and we'll have another podcast next week. Until then, cheers, everybody.